Hi, folks, and welcome back to Ukes with Alex. This is the podcast. It's episode 2. And many of you who have clicked on this will already know the man, the myth, the legend. But my guest today is Pete Howlett. Hi, Pete. How you doing?
Good morning. Good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm good. You've caught me at the right time of day. Dopamine levels are high. Drugs are kicked in. I've done a bit of work in the workshop, and so I feel ready to go. Yeah.
So I'm sure most people know already that you build ukuleles because the name Pete Howlett, really UK luthier legends, and I am blowing smoke up your ass deliberately, but you are the ukulele man for the UK. You are the person we export in the Eurovision ukulele contest of builders. You would be the man we put forth. But could you just tell people a little bit about yourself and where you're based and a bit about what brought you to the ukulele in the first place?
Okay, so if I start at the beginning and then take you to the end, is that okay?
Great.
Right, okay. Well, in 1994, I found myself in Arlington, Texas, at the Marriott Hotel Conference Center doing a guitar show. Opposite us, in the actual hall, was a guy called Collier Thielen. I just want to tell you a little bit of story about Collier Thielen because he's very important. He's responsible for the Applause ukulele.
Okay.
He spent over 10 years trying to petition Ovation to make this ukulele because Ovation is an extremely popular instrument in Hawaii. And Collier was based in Hawaii. And so the Ovation guitar, very, very popular instrument. And Collier was trying to press him to get them to make a ukulele. So that's how the Applause came about. The other thing about Collier Thielen, he has a connection with one of your largest brands in the sense that he mentored the actual guy of that brand through the process of actually designing and launching the ukulele range, which has become one of the premier Chinese-made brands, Mike Upton.
Oh, really? That doesn't surprise me. I mean, Mike's somebody who really likes to listen and learn. So I'm sure he's plenty of mentors over the years.
So Colin mentored him.
Yeah.
I think Mike was originally with Malanakai.
He was.
So
yeah.
So this was my contact, and I met him at the show. He had 6 guitars in glass cases, and these were vintage guitars. So a pre-war 1936 00 42, all the bling on it. The actual that really tiny little parlor guitar that they found in Salt Lake with the ivory bridge and the ivory fingerboard. The very first National. He had all these in a glass cases, not selling anything because he'd gone to the show to buy soprano ukulele at $80 a pop.
Right.
Martin Sopranos, $80 a pop back in 1994. And we had a little Turtz guitar. And he came across, he said, I really like these Turtz guitars. I just couldn't sell them in Hawaii. But can you make ukulele? So I said, never seen one. He said, well, can you make one? I said, well, if I can make these, I could probably make a ukulele for you. So he said, well, we're coming back in 3 months' time. Because we won this award, we're able to sort of travel on these two marketing trips to Texas. That's another story. It's too long for this interview, but
for another one though. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, the Texas thing. Visit to Collins Guitars, quite interesting. Anyway, we went back the 3 months later, and in the presidential suite of the Marriott Hotel, I measured up 2 ukuleles, and I got 2 sets of wood, but not the ukulele. I wanted to take the ukulele with me, so I had more chance to actually look inside and stuff like that.
Right.
So I built these 2 ukuleles and I sent them off to Hawaii. And 2 weeks later, I phoned up and said, how are the ukuleles doing? So the bridges have come off. So I thought, that's it, finished, I'm done. This is it, I've screwed it. He said, the build quality was brilliant, but you need to phone Bob Gleason. Now, Bob Gleason is the owner of Pegasus Guitars. He's the grandfather of boutique instruments in Hawaii. He's the guy who went the original American to go from there to Hawaii as a non-Hawaiian, set up a business, do koa plantation and stuff like that, and conservation. And his mantra is, I need to wake up in the morning. There's 7 different ways of making money. Yeah. Very interesting guy. But Bob became my mentor. So in the early days, when I was cracking ribs and couldn't bend koa and trying to understand how it worked, I'd be phoning on the phone to him in the middle of the night, which is early morning over there, crying and saying, "Oh, help me! I can't get these ribs to bend." And, he gave me one of the most amazing bits of advice. He said, "You're going to use a lot of super glue in this business."
Fair Fair enough. I remember Joe Souza saying to me about how he used to make braces out of chopsticks. So they'd eat Chinese every night so that he could collect the chopsticks because he couldn't buy them in the shop. So it's
we all done crazy things in the early days.
Yeah.
Anyway, I learned to build ukuleles as a result of having this contract to make about 4 to 6 instruments a month and send them over to Hawaii. And this was a really incredibly extraordinary thing. I mean, an English guy living in Wales, and my workshop then was a stable attached to a chapel. Now the stable was about 6 foot, 7 foot long by 5 foot wide. The preacher used to put his horse in there, preach a sermon, and then just go off.
You could only really build ukuleles in a workshop that dimensions.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing, but I was building Weissenborns and guitars as well at the same time in that space. You know, so and so I would be sent a pile of koa, and I would send back these completed instruments, and it was just, I look back on this and this is just, it's like the planets just became aligned and I was in the right place at the right time. 2 years later, after 1994, about 95, 96, I split from Tony Revell, who I was working with, and then went on my own. And then that's when the hard part started, because although I had this base order for ukuleles to Hawaii, I wanted to expand that out and I couldn't. And I couldn't because there was no market at the time. There was no internet. When I mean internet as we know it today, with all social media and all the other stuff.
It wasn't the e-commerce juggernaut that it is now.
No. And I had no contacts at all. I only had this guy in Hawaii. So I first started with American stores. So Elderly Instruments, Griffin Instruments, a Shade Tree, a number of others, Dusty Strings, took my instruments. So and John Bonunzio in New York. And so I had these people taking my instruments, so it still couldn't develop a business in the UK. Now, if you know at the time about the history of the ukulele, there were 2 companies working in Hawaii who were producing own quantity. One was Maui Music, led up by Peter Lieberman, and the other one was Kamaka, and we all know who Kamaka is.
Yeah, I suppose
in 1993. Aloha has started up.
Yeah.
But they were still experimenting. They spent the first 2 years doing crazy stuff like ribs, continuous ribs, one piece of wood. Very innovative, doing the unibrace and all the other things and the special sound all they have. So, they were the only other people. And then there were a few boutique builders. And what the problem was because there were just so few makers, the quality wasn't there in the Kamaka and Maui factories.
No one to push them.
It wasn't there.
If no one's pushing through,
indifference. There was just that indifference because the market was already there, and so it was. I had so many struggles in those early years. This is the 4th time I've had a workshop. They've all been in Wales, apart from one which was in America. I did a stint in America, but trying to actually get into the consciousness of the ukulele world was so difficult. There weren't many clubs. There's the Formby Society, of course.
Yeah. And
that's about banjo ukulele. And I mean, it has its place, but it is very difficult if you are a kind of have a broad idea of what music is to join a society that has a single goal.
Yeah.
Of playing just one man's music, and if it's a music you can't relate to, it's really hard to sort of relate to the people there because they're extremely.
So one style, isn't it? And to those people that love that kind of thing.
Great. Yeah, you go there and you can see the most incredible fan technique and copy playing and people playing and singing almost exactly like Formby. That is a complete genre technique in its own right. But there were 2 people in that society who helped me out. One was called John Croft, and the other one was Ray Bernard. Ray Bernard was George Harrison's ukulele pimp. So he would get ukulele for George. So all the ukulele you see George playing was supplied to him by a guy called Ray Bernard, and he loved Ray Bernard because Ray Bernard was a most amazing banjo ukulele player, an incredible banjo ukulele player because he had a sensitivity. So he wasn't there with a machine gun in his hand. He had this beautiful technique of playing. And of course, John Croft is the ukulele man. You probably know John. He's quite a unique fellow over in Oswald Street, but buying and selling ukulele. And he brought me something which I had never seen before. I've only ever seen one of them. And that was a machete, the actual original pattern for the ukulele,
Yeah.
the Portuguese Nachette or Braguina, and he had it in a coffin case. And this little thing was like an absolute cannon. It was 12 on the dial. It had a tiny little rosewood body with a spruce front with the bridge right the way down the bottom. Beautiful peghead, lovely, beautiful built instrument in the Spanish style. And it played absolutely, it was just like playing butter, you know, it's just beautiful. And so those two really helped me out in terms of getting my initial connections. But in those first years, I made soprano after soprano after soprano. And when Ken Timms came along, I thought, great, I can stop doing it now. You know, it was just, and I sold probably about 4 or 5 tenors in the first 10 years in the UK.
It's madness how these trends change. And yeah, I mean, it was a hard time to start, but I suppose it gave you those formative years to refine what you do.
And you know, and this is a caution. This is a caution to people who think that ukulele business is an easy business. It's not an easy business. I am very fortunate because of what you said right at the very beginning. I've been doing this for 26 years.
Yeah.
And if you do something long enough, you get into people's consciousness, like Ralph Bown. You know, Ralph Bown is in the folk guitar consciousness. You know, if somebody wants a bridge-built guitar, it won't be a Filed, it will be a Ralph Bown or a Stefan Sobel. You know, and so you have to be doing it long enough. And in order to do it long enough, you have to be able to pay the bills. The difficulty between getting from £400 to £1,400 to £3,400 is amazingly difficult. So it wasn't until 2004 that things started to really pick up. And in that time, you know, the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain were my clients.
Right.
I got them on board, and I had a number of other people playing my instruments. Nobody particularly famous, but you know, it was starting to grow and grow and grow every time I restarted it. So every time I couldn't manage the debt situation anymore, I went back to my former employment, which was teaching.
Right.
Got my finances in order, bought another house, went back to making ukuleles, lost the house, went back to teaching.
Well, what a horrible pattern that is, eh?
Well, it's very interesting because I was talking to a guy just yesterday in a different trade, and we've all done the same thing. You know, we've all made a lot, lost a lot, and that's the business. And you know, it's not particularly easy business. So if anybody's watching this and got to this point and they think, yeah, this sounds like a great story. It sounds like, you know, Pete's had a load of fun. Yeah, there's been a lot of agony on the way as well, and a lot of hardship endured by my wife and family.
Yeah, that kind of thing is what makes a person in a roundabout way. Because I mean, your ukuleles now, they feel like an instrument that has decades of experience behind them when they're made.
They do have a history.
Crawl out of that primordial ooze to get there. And
yeah. And it was very difficult because, of course, the American market in guitars in ukuleles is the dominant market.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, in 2000, I received, well, it wasn't 2000, it was 1998. I received a phone call, a guy in the UK who was the distributor for AER, or the audio equipment and keyboards and stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, I have a contact in Japan who has seen one of your instruments hanging up in the lobby of the hotel, whatever it is in Honolulu, where everybody stays, because the guy used to have a display then sell from the lobby. And he actually wants you to build some ukuleles. So get in touch with the guy. He said, can you build me a dozen soprano ukulele in the style of the Kamaka Sunny D one? I said, yeah, I could do that, but I can't build you 12. I've got to build you 24. That's okay. And you've got to pay for the whole lot up front. That's okay. You know, so I had Japanese clients who had actually seen my work in Hawaii contact me, and that kept me going. But there still wasn't that local business. And that did not happen until 2008. And it's very interesting because 2008 was the recession. Yeah. Your experience over the last 6 months as a ukulele store is precisely that.
Yeah.
And so we had this crash, and the great ukulele boom was in 1929 to 36,
Yeah.
and it kind of finished. And it was over that depression period. It's exactly the same thing happened in 2008. And suddenly my order book began to fill up.
Yeah.
And what happened in
Historically,
2004,
it's
she
not going to
wrote
be
back,
romanticized in the same way, but you're so right. It's so true.
in 2004, Jake recorded Weeps. Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain went on Jules Holland's show and did Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
And those two things, not the George Harrison concert, I don't think that had any effect whatsoever in terms of ukuleles.
When was that? Was that before or after?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was in 2002 or something.
Yeah, I
So
feel
it's
like
about,
it's 2001 too.
yeah. I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the ukulele business. I was totally unaware of that. I didn't see the impact. But in 2004, when Jake did that thing in the park, George Harrison thing in the park, and that then became viral on YouTube. And then later on in the year, Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain were on Jules Holland's show. That really changed everything, and you could see the surge. Now you buy from a company out in Philly, and we all know the company.
Yep.
They're the major importers of the Chinese brands, and that's when they identified it happening, because they went from one container every 6 months to one container every quarter to one container every month.
Yeah, I mean, we can mention names. I mean, Mike Upton, we didn't mention earlier on. Mike Upton is the owner of Carla Ukuleles, and Sutherland Trading are the UK distributors for Carla, but also Lanakai and Pono. But you're right, they started around that time. They started bringing in more volume, but
it did require enthusiasts within those businesses to do that. I mean, who's the guy at Sutherland originally? It's Geraint now, but the guy before him.
I don't know. All my time,
I can't remember. But I mean, he had a great sort of push for it, and had to push Sutherland Trading constantly for this until they realised that's their base income now.
Yeah,
it's the ukuleles that keep them going.
Yeah, it's got to be a massive amount of it. But yeah, they're very much the ukulele wholesalers, aren't they, of the UK, like the kind of biggest.
So in 2010, I moved here into my current workshop, which is in South Wales, North Wales, from South Wales to North Wales, and I haven't had an empty order book since. So I've had a 6-month advance order book since 2010.
Wow.
And prior to that, I was having to stop working in the workshop and go back to decent income. And it's honestly, Alex, it's you will know, being a musician, there's the Super League, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
There isn't a Super League and a First Division in the music industry. There's the Super League, and there's everybody else, and it's exactly the same in the Luthier world. There's the Super League, and there's everybody else, and you only get in the Super League by doing what I've done, which is sticking at it.
Yeah, by grinding away in the lower leagues for a long time. I mean, Pete, I'm really glad you expanded upon that so much. It's to be honest with you, it'll probably be half the interview, but I'm so delighted that you gave us that really.
I mean, the history is constantly being rewritten, and again, this is another fallacy. I meet a lot of people who are starting out in the business and want to get their ukulele to the hands of Jake or somebody like that. Jake will play your instrument, be very polite about it, but he has his link with Kamaka. Yeah. He's not going to take one of your ukuleles on stage and say, "Hey, look, I'm no longer sponsored by Kamaka because I've got these wonderful ukuleles from John Smith in Carlisle."
Yeah, John Smith in Carlisle. Yeah, I want to see more of his ukuleles. Jake plays.
And that's not their job, is it? Your job, and you'll know that as a musician, your job at the gig is to sell your music, to sell you, not to sell your brand of ukulele that you're playing. And so my warning to anybody, and I hope you broadcast this, is that if you think you're going to enter this industry, and because somebody famous has said nice things about your ukulele, and you give them one that they're going to get up on stage and spend most of the evening talking about how wonderful this instrument is, you get it, mate. It's not going to happen.
No.
The people who actually have promoted my work are Paul Tucker, who used to be your manager, another teacher out in the Midlands. It's teachers who will promote your work. So my advice to anybody who's starting this business, who's looking around for somebody to promote their work, find a teacher who's got a large teaching pool And if you're making a good value for money ukulele that students can have, then that teacher will promote that. And I sold so many of my boat paddles that way. And it was really, really important. So, just to dispel a myth about, just because somebody has said nice things about your work. I've had loads of people say nice things about my work and then, just take an instrument off me and then not promote it. So that doesn't happen anymore.
All right then. I will make sure I broadcast that. You talked about a few of your inspirations earlier on, but who are some of your favourite modern builders that you're seeing nowadays?
Yeah, it has to be Bob Gleason. He said something very interesting about my instruments to Collier. He said, "We'll see how long this guy lasts, because my instruments are built right on the edge of destruction. They're built so that they, if you really abuse them, they will fall apart. And so I've done that thing that classical guitar makers do, which is build, to that edge in order to get the maximum into the instrument. And it's interesting that over the years I've kept in touch with Bob and bought wood from him, and I actually visited him on my Winston Churchill Fellowship travels. And he's a great builder. And of course Chuck Moore, just for the actual beauty of his ability to actually visually enhance an instrument. Of the American builders, Bohannon, brilliant builder. Jake McClay.
Not heard of Bohannon. What's Bohannon's?
Bo's an Australian. He did his apprenticeship with Gillett in Australia, but now lives in border Colorado. Oh, he's incredible. The way I assess whether a builder is good or not is anybody can build a ukulele. You come to my workshop, you build a ukulele on one of my courses, it will sound like a Howlett. But that's the builder that I started out at. And then you had to start with inlay and stuff like that. And when you look at inlay, the one thing that is the test is the mitre, where you have one piece of wood meeting another and you have a 45-degree join. Bo is one of the very few people who can do perfect mitres. So if you look at your instruments now that you've bought as boutique instruments, if that's a perfect join and it looks like a continuous line without a black line between the two white bits, that's a perfect mitre. Jake McClay can do that as well. Okay. And Bo, you look up Bohannon, but Bo is exactly like Bob. They're recidivist guitar makers. They much rather prefer making guitars than ukulele, but ukulele pays the bills. So Bo definitely is a great builder. As far as Europe is concerned, I don't plug into the scene, but I would say Juha Lotunen from Finland.
Okay.
Absolutely incredible builder when he builds ukuleles. Taught me how to use alder, which he uses exclusively for his guitar bodies and guitar necks. And obviously Tom Ziegenspeck in Germany. And
his instruments are you can find them through Thomann, can't you?
Yeah.
So worth a look.
Yeah, you can buy direct from Tom as well. Tom will take commissions. And as far as Britain is concerned, I did tell you that Josh Johansson was moving back to Hawaii. They're not now, so he will be coming back to the UK. And
I played Josh's instruments, and they were up there with the best instruments that I've ever played. And
that is amazing, because you're looking at first instruments from
they were his first 4 instruments he'd ever built. And Rob said the same to him. And then he went over to see Andrew and the team at Ukulele Site, and they played them, and they said the same thing.
The Ukulele Site are very interesting. They can actually see potential. So they took his instruments, they stripped the finish off, which was crazy and cracking, which I told him it would because he'd used the wrong lacquer. And they refinished them for him, probably sold them. And but he's coming back to the UK, and I'm so glad, because I'm going to retire soon, and I certainly have retired from the type of instrument he's making, which is the acoustic instrument. Yeah. And and the thing with Josh, he's got 3 qualities which are necessary for me, as I understand, for a good builder. 1, humility. 2, he's got amazing craft skills. Because he's made furniture, he's made shepherd's huts, his furniture's unbelievable. Technically he's so competent. And thirdly, he has the best koa on the planet.
He does. I mean, having his koa is his koa. How unique is that for someone based in the UK?
I mean, he's a little bit like what's that cake brand? We're getting to that point when my brain is emptying. Canalea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh spends 3 or 4 months of the year logging and converting koa, and he sells to all of the major players in Hawaii. So he's
Everyone.
got a
Yeah.
huge reputation there, and hopefully he's coming back here to build. And but I don't know, things are a bit difficult with the coronavirus situation. But
What a builder! His wife's lovely as well. They make a great team. I really hope that we can work with him.
well, I hope so too, because he deserves it. I mean, he's a super nice guy. And it was great because he can't play. He's deaf as well from spending years in the forest with chainsaws without any ear protection and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I spent a day with him and showing him how to do setup and what setup would look like and stuff like that. And when I played the instrument, both him and his wife were in tears because they hadn't actually heard it played.
Mm.
And I said, "This is the finished article."
He is. You're right. You're so right, Pete.
And that is unbelievable. It's like Tommy. Tommy came to me for his internship during his degree course, and he was the finished article. And it's very, 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 very rare that you meet something like that. I had to get to that point.
I think,
But
Pete,
these people,
when you were working with Tommy, Pete, as well, I think it reinvigorated you. I found just dealing with you, having somebody else that had great ideas.
Got with it. I'd actually got into a depression because I couldn't complete any of my instruments.
Mm.
Tommy came along and I had to complete them because I had that. And this young person in the workshop who'd got sort of punk ideals and stuff like that. I mean, Tommy's a character. He's a complete character. I mean, what a lot of people don't know about him is that he is a national treasure as far as a bagpipe player. He plays the bagpipes.
So my condenser mic ran out of battery, so I've switched to the camera audio. So
he's got this confirmation kit given to him by a guy in Scotland. He's 60 years old, and says when he does the bagpipe festivals, people come along and sort of finger his kilt because it's a very, very old tartan. This guy is amazing, absolutely amazing, Tom. So if you wanted very European-looking instruments, I think Tom is a great builder, but I don't necessarily sort of agree with some of the design aspects of his instrument, which we talked about. I mean, if he watches the film, know. But they're very European for me.
The European design, you mean kind of like almost like the sharper edged, kind of sharp, sharp edges?
It's more like a figure 8 shape.
Yeah, it's a more sheer design.
Yeah. If you look at Granosi's work in Vienna, it's exactly the same. It has that very sort of German sort of look to it. The thing about Tommy is that when he did his masterpiece for his degree, and he had to present it to this panel, so you have a Viva, which is a live presentation. You sit there with your instrument, and talk about it, and these people are looking at violins, cellos, double basses, classical guitars, maybe a few steel strings. Never seen a ukulele. He said, I built a ukulele, and a couple of them sniggered. And he got this thing out, his masterpiece, and their jaws dropped to the floor, and they said they had never seen such work in 5 years.
Wow.
And Tommy had done all of that off-site. He removed his workshop from the main building and got stuck in and really, really pursued that. Because when he left in 2016 or 15, I think when he did his
16, yeah. I reckon 16 because you did ukulele, you did Cheltenham before that stopped.
Yeah. When he left, I said to him, "You got to decide what you're going to be. Is it going to be a ukulele maker or is it going to be a guitar maker? Because you cannot be both." And that's my view. And I know that there are great guitar makers who make ukuleles as well, Steve Grimes and people like that. But I think you really have to be a one-trick pony in this business. You have to focus and you have to do that. Because getting a great sound from a ukulele is really, really hard. You can build them, you can make them look nice, and you've probably had lots through your store that look nice, but you think, just didn't put it in the sound department.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from for sure. I think you can either have super bling or you can have something that's bare bones that sounds good, and it's maybe that 3% that manage to mix both well. When they're new, certainly, I don't know. There's so much variance, but I do agree with you. Yeah, for sure. I'm probably going to have to say goodbye to you soon, Pete. But before we do, is there any chance you could just talk to us a bit about the Revelator?
Yep. In 2000, I had a 2015 a diagnosis for Parkinson's disease, and thought, okay, I've got 3 years to do my 1,000 ukuleles, and thought, then there's the BBC program about that. What's transpired, of course, is that I've not been able to achieve that because Parkinson's has had a rapid effect on my motor skills. And I bought a CNC machine to mess around with inlay, and thought, okay, I need to use this machine a little bit more. And then developed Revelator, which is a solid-bodied instrument, hollowed out on the router, and with a standard or my new bracing system on the top to produce an acoustic electric instrument that is completely, it's not unique, it's been done before by other people, I know, but the unique thing about my instruments is, and you will qualify this, Alex, you cannot believe the sound that comes from them.
It sounds like a conventional instrument. I've done sound samples on several Revelators, and they stand up against anything that's got a thicker body or a conventional sound hole. Yeah, completely tonally, it looks completely different to how you expect it to sound.
There's a little bit of the richness the loss that you get from having a deeper body, which you'd understand. But when I put strings on the very first Revelator, I had to sit down. I was shocked. I was actually shocked at the sound because I thought it was going to be a thin, nasty, nasally sound, and that's why I put the pickup in as an electroacoustic. That it would be just sort of like a practice instrument that you can plug in on stage. It looks nice and sounds great on stage. But no, it performs acoustically as well as electrically. And for this year, I'm having just two models. One is the Nautilus, which has got the new sound hole, which is the development from the original Revelator. The other one is the standard Revelator. I'm going to concentrate on those and then look at spruce-topped instruments next year. But you're going to get your Revelators at the end of this, beginning of next week, and probably want to do a review on them because you're going to have a Koa one and a Carina one. You'll be able to take a look at the difference between the two actual woods, because on these instruments, I can actually notice the difference of top wood. I can't necessarily recognize the difference with my acoustic instruments because they all seem to sound all the same to me. Probably not to you, but just to me.
I will definitely, be recording a comparison of them. I think they probably won't even hit the website though, because I've got such a long waiting list for people kind of waiting. But there's, it's people want the instrument that gets a demo on the YouTube channel. So I think that's why they're kind of willing to wait for us to get one. So I'm really excited.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to end this interview by saying something about you guys, and which I think is important. Southern Ukulele Store have been an absolute champion and supporter of my work and support of other people's work as well. And I think that you guys perform one of the most important services to the ukulele industry in the UK. What Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain does is introduce people to the ukulele. They don't introduce people to playing the ukulele, but they introduce them to the ukulele. What you guys do is you are able to facilitate people to get the ukulele that they really need. And I promote you guys because somebody comes to me and my instrument's too much, say, well, go to the Southern Ukulele Store, have a talk to them. They have the expertise. So my thanks and mahalo out to you guys for being such great champions of the instrument, and to have this important role in the UK of being the suppository, not depository, the depository of knowledge. And that's what you're doing, Alex. So
hey, thank you, Pete. Yeah, we really value what we do at SUS. I'm actually making this video for my own channel, but I was going to take some bits and put them on the Revelator video I'm going to make next week for SUS. And I love my job. I'm so lucky. I get to talk to people like you and I learn something new pretty much every day. And I think it's really important in the guitar industry. Everybody's quite happy to shit on each other very quickly and very easily. And I don't really feel a sense of that in the
No,
UK.
the ukulele is a community instrument, isn't it? You know,
For
the
sure.
number of clubs that have grown out of it, the fact that people want to play it. I don't know about you, but when I used to do my gigs, my blues gigs in the northwest of England and stuff, and the crowd become a bit restless, you know, after half an hour, I'd get the ukulele out. The entire pub would go quiet. Everybody would smile. You play this song and they'll go, wow. And you've got your audience back. You could play your last two numbers before you break. And you know, and it has the same effect. When I played in America, I used to play out in America when I lived there. It had exactly the same effect. You bring out a ukulele and people smile. And I do not know anybody that can play a sad song committedly on a ukulele. You can't play minor keys. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, especially in high G, you've got no chance. But I had a customer once who's passed away now. He had a really bad time of it, and he said to me the last time I saw him that the ukulele was kind of like an anesthetic. He found it kind of made everything go away for him.
Yeah,
So
and it does. It brings communities together through groups. It's a great solo instrument. It's not like a guitar where you have there's quite a long learning curve in order to get a good sound out of a guitar. I taught my daughter to play ukulele in half an hour, and within 2 weeks we were playing at the Ukulele Society of Great Britain's concert on stage in 2 weeks.
And there's so many stories like that, for sure.
And she had never played the instrument before, never played the guitar. 13-year-old little girl with me on stage, you know, and doing a couple of blues numbers, and it was just amazing, you know, and that is why this instrument is so fun to make, because it's fun to play, and it makes people happy. It's so cool. It's got good karma.
Well, I think we should leave it there because we're never going to get more positive than that, are we, Pete? I think the longer we talk, probably the more pessimistic we get. That's a fantastic way to end it. No, I've had a fantastic chat, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. You have a great day now. Take care.
No worries.